Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is your guide to really navigating the complexities of gout. We're exploring the absolute latest research, finding delicious ways to eat well, and, arming you with actionable tips for living better.
Yeah, and we want to acknowledge right from the start, living with gout, it can be profoundly challenging.
Oh, absolutely. That intense pain during a flare, the limitations on mobility, just the sheer unpredictability.
Right. When it might strike, it can feel really isolating, truly debilitating sometimes.
And, if you're caring for someone living with gout, we see you too. That role, it comes with its own unique set of pressures, its own challenges.
Definitely. But here's the critical truth, I think. Managing gout isn't just about, gritting your teeth and enduring it.
No.
It's a journey. And it's one where science is making some really remarkable strides, offering new tools, deeper understanding.
And crucially, it's a journey where delicious, vibrant food doesn't have to be off the menu. That's so important.
Yes, you absolutely do not have to feel resigned to blandness or feel like you're facing this all alone. So true.
Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to cut through the noise, give you that knowledge quickly, clearly, help you understand the new possibilities that research is revealing, and most importantly, translate that into practical, science-backed steps, things you can consider taking right now or, share with someone you care for.
And we've got quite a fascinating deep dive lined up for you today. We're going to unpack some truly surprising new findings.
Yeah, some really interesting stuff.
Insights from recent studies on things you might not have ever connected to gout management, like the potential role of different types of water.
Or that complex relationship between fasting patterns and, well, inflammatory responses.
Exactly. And we'll take a really deep look into why something as accessible as vitamin C might be a much more powerful ally than you thought.
Backed by studies showing how it works with existing medications, that synergy.
Right. We'll also explore a promising new treatment specifically aimed at those really tough-to-manage cases.
And to prove our point about food.
Yep. We're featuring a recipe that's both, strategic and genuinely delicious.
So if you're ready to gain some science-backed insights, explore new strategies for managing flares, and just find practical, empowering ways to approach living well with gout.
Then let's get started.
Okay, let's set the historical stage for just a moment, because I think it offers some really valuable context. Gout has this long-standing, well, almost infamous reputation, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. The disease of kings.
Exactly. For centuries, it was known as the disease of kings.
Mm.
And that wasn't just like a catchy phrase. It was linked directly to the dietary habits of the wealthy elite.
Right. People who could afford those rich, purine-heavy foods like organ meats, game, lots of alcohol.
And the pain and suffering it caused were seen as almost an inevitable consequence of that kind of, well, indulgent lifestyle. Only accessible to royalty, the aristocracy.
And that historical narrative, while, accurate for its time, unfortunately, it left this lingering stigma.
Yeah, it did.
It sometimes implies that gout is solely the result of poor choices or overindulgence. And that just isn't fair. It's not accurate for the vast majority of people living with it today.
Not at all. Gout is complex. It involves genetics, metabolism, environmental factors.
Yeah.
It goes way beyond just diet.
Absolutely, which is why we need to reframe it entirely for the modern era.
Oh.
Forget that old kingdom where gout was the exclusive burden of royalty living lives of, excess.
Right.
We see you, our listener, and those you support as the true royalty in the modern gout management kingdom.
I like that.
And your power, your resources, they aren't vast banquets anymore.
Huh.
No. It's vast amounts of information. It's the power of science.
Yes, you are armed with research, with data, with practical tools that weren't even dreamt of when gout was confined to those palaces.
And this reframing, it's crucial because it shifts the perspective. It moves away from potential blame or just dealing with it through sheer willpower against inevitable pain to one of empowerment. You're not just a passive recipient of a difficult condition.
Right. No, you're active.
You're an active participant, strategically using science, medical guidance, practical knowledge to understand, navigate, and manage your condition more effectively. It really transforms the challenge into something you can actively work with.
Rather than just fight against it.
Exactly.
And speaking of working with your condition in practical, enjoyable ways, let's tackle one of the biggest misconceptions head on.
Okay. The food one.
The food one. The idea that managing gout means eating nothing but bland, tasteless food. That flavor and enjoyment are just sacrificed at the altar of lower uric acid.
Yeah. That couldn't be further from the truth.
No. Our featured weekly gout-friendly recipe is specifically designed to just shatter that myth, show you how vibrant and delicious this journey can actually be.
Okay, so this week we are featuring the Citrus Salmon Superfood Salad.
Ooh, sounds good already.
It is, and it's a perfect example of how you can create a meal that's not only packed with flavor and texture, but also incorporates specific ingredients chosen for their potential benefits in supporting your gout management goals.
It proves strategic eating can be something you actually look forward to.
Exactly.
Okay, specifics. What exactly goes into this Citrus Salmon Superfood Salad? And crucially, how much time are we looking at to get this on the table? Because, life happens.
Totally understandable. It's actually a very approachable recipe. It's centered around grilled salmon,
Yeah.
served over a bed of mixed greens like spinach and arugula. Then it's brightened up with fresh orange segments, finished with crunchy walnuts, and it's all tied together with a simple but really flavorful turmeric-lemon dressing.
Okay, that sounds amazing. And the time.
The best part. Prep time is just about 25 minutes.
25 minutes.
You're
Seriously.
silly. It's genuinely achievable for a weeknight meal or, a healthy, satisfying lunch.
That's incredibly efficient for something that sounds elevated. Now, let's really dive into the superfood aspect and the why behind these ingredients. How does each component actually contribute to a gout-friendly approach?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. Start with the star, the salmon. We recommend about 150 grams per serving. Okay, salmon is just a fantastic source of high-quality protein, but crucially, it's also incredibly rich in omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA.
They're good fat.
They're really good fats.
Yeah.
These compounds are renowned for their powerful anti-inflammatory properties. And since the excruciating pain and swelling of a gout flare is essentially an intense inflammatory response to those uric acid crystals,
Right.
consuming foods that naturally help reduce inflammation is just, it's a cornerstone of supportive dietary management.
Okay, and how does that compare, say, to consuming red meat as your protein source? Because that's a big one for gout folks.
That's a really important comparison. While red meats, especially organ meats, are higher in purines, those compounds your body breaks down into uric acid. Salmon is considered a low purine protein source, so you get excellent bioavailable protein for muscle maintenance, overall health, plus those significant anti-inflammatory omega-3 without contributing as significantly to your uric acid load compared to those higher purine meats. It's a really strategic swap. Supports your body's needs while aligning with gout management principles.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Protein needs met, inflammation fought, lower purines.
Got it. What about the citrus? Those orange segments sound like they add such a nice touch of freshness.
Ah, the oranges, yes. This is where we start to directly connect the food to some of the key scientific findings we'll get into later.
Okay.
Oranges are an incredible powerhouse of vitamin C, also known as ascorbic acid. And current research is strongly suggesting that vitamin C plays a significant role in enhancing the kidney's ability to excrete uric acid from the body.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it helps your body clear out the excess uric acid more efficiently. So this specific recipe, with a good amount of fresh oranges, aims to provide roughly 300 milligrams of vitamin C per serving.
Okay, 300 milligrams. Now, that isn't quite the dose we'll talk about for supplementation later, but it's a substantial contribution from a single meal, and it starts building that daily intake, really illustrating how food can be a key player in getting these beneficial compounds.
So the vitamin C is doing more than just boosting your immune system. It's actively working on your uric acid levels.
Precisely. It has this demonstrated mechanism that directly impacts uric acid homeostasis. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. Okay, walnuts are in the salad too. Beyond just being a healthy snack, is there a specific connection to gout there?
Yes. That 1-occur cup of walnuts adds great texture and, importantly, healthy fats. Walnuts are rich in unsaturated fats.
Right.
And when researchers look at broad dietary patterns associated with lower serum uric acid levels, they often see this correlation with diets higher in unsaturated fats compared to saturated or trans fats.
So it's the overall pattern.
Exactly. While individual foods are important, the overall pattern of eating matters significantly. Including components like walnuts just fits within these broader dietary approaches that appear beneficial for managing uric acid over time.
It's about building a supportive overall diet, not just, avoiding specific things.
Precisely. It's a positive contribution to the dietary landscape.
Got it. And finally, the dressing has turmeric. We hear so much about turmeric these days for its health benefits. What's its role here, specifically in the context of gout?
Turmeric contains a really potent compound called curcumin,
Right, curcumin.
which is a well-established anti-inflammatory agent. Now remember, the intense, debilitating pain of a gout flare, that's caused by your immune system's powerful inflammatory response to those sharp uric acid crystals deposited in the joint.
Uh-huh.
Curcumin has been shown to act at a molecular level to help modulate, to help reduce this inflammatory cascade. So while medication is absolutely critical for managing flares,
Yours.
incorporating natural compounds like curcumin that possess these anti-inflammatory properties can be a valuable supportive strategy. It could potentially help temper that painful response.
So it's about adding tools to potentially lessen the severity or maybe even the duration of that intense inflammation.
Exactly. Every little bit helps potentially.
Wow. Okay, so this salad isn't just a collection of tasty ingredients. It's like a deliberately designed meal where every single component is playing a role in supporting gout management.
That's the idea.
Salmon for low purine protein, anti-inflammatory omega-3s, oranges for vitamin C, aiding uric acid excretion, walnuts for healthy unsaturated fats, turmeric to help fight inflammation at the molecular level. It's like truly strategic and delicious.
It is. It perfectly encapsulates the idea that eating well for gout doesn't mean deprivation. It means making informed, delicious choices that actively support your health goals.
Love it. And I hear there's a pro tip to go along with this recipe.
There is a simple yet effective one.
Yeah.
Try pairing the Citrus Salmon Superfood Salad with cherry-infused sparkling water.
Ooh, interesting. Why cherry?
Well, we know that tart cherries, particularly in concentrated form, have garnered a lot of attention for their potential benefits in helping to lower uric acid levels and reduce inflammation.
Right. I've heard that.
So drinking cherry-infused water adds a refreshing element to your meal and provides maybe a little extra dose of beneficial flavonoids and antioxidants that align with those known tart cherry benefits.
So another layer of support.
Exactly. It's a simple way to enhance the meal and just add another layer of potential support.
So you're getting that extra potential boost from your beverage choice as well. That's a fantastic, practical tip. This recipe sounds like a genuine winner, good for you, and genuinely enjoyable to eat. That really is the heart of the Gout Gourmet concept, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's all about empowering you with choices that are both beneficial and enjoyable.
All right, let's shift gears now. From the kitchen to the cutting edge of science. It's time for our news roundup,
Good stuff.
where we look at the latest scientific discoveries promising new treatments on the horizon and some recent findings from trials that might really make you think differently about how we approach managing gout.
It's truly exciting to see the breadth of research happening right now. It spans everything from high-tech pharmaceutical developments all the way down to examining the potential effects of something as fundamental as, well, the water we drink.
Okay, kicking off the news roundup, let's talk about SAP-001. Sounds very clinical, but this addresses a really critical unmet need for some people living with gout.
It does. SAP-001 is a novel renal transporter inhibitor. It's currently in development by Shanton Pharma. And what makes this particularly important is its focus. It's being developed specifically for patients with refractory gout flares.
Refractory gout flares. Okay, so that means flares that are frequent, severe, and just aren't responding adequately to the standard therapies currently available, right?
Exactly.
Wow. For someone living with that level of persistent, difficult-to-control pain and mobility issues, finding an effective treatment must feel absolutely life-changing.
It really would be. For those individuals who are still experiencing significant challenges despite being on existing medications, SAP-001 represents a potential new avenue, and the results from their Phase 2b trial were quite compelling, especially for this specific patient group.
Okay, what did they find?
The trial demonstrated a 60% reduction in the frequency of flares in patients taking SAP-001.
Wait, a 60% reduction. In flares, for people who were previously struggling with constant flare-ups that standard treatment couldn't control.
That's right, 60%.
That number is incredibly significant. It speaks directly to improving quality of life, reducing pain, increasing mobility for those who need it most. That's huge.
It is a very meaningful clinical outcome. It suggests that this drug is working through maybe a different or perhaps more potent mechanism that addresses the underlying issues contributing to persistent gout in these unresponsive cases.
So what's next for SAP-001?
The next crucial step is initiating larger Phase 3 trials. These are designed to confirm the results in a broader population, and those trials are scheduled to begin in the fourth quarter of 2025. So it's something genuinely on the horizon.
So there's real tangible hope being developed for those with the most challenging forms of gout. It really embodies that idea. When conventional meds have reached their limit, science keeps pushing forward.
Keeps finding new ways to tackle those stubborn crystal deposits causing all the pain.
No crystal left behind.
Exactly. It's about expanding the therapeutic landscape, making sure fewer people are left without effective options.
All right, let's move to the next piece of news. This one is perhaps even more surprising in its simplicity. Alkaline water.
Yes, this comes from a relatively recent study, 2024, conducted in Guangdong. It involved 400 patients, and they investigated the effects of participants simply consuming high pH alkaline water on a daily basis.
Just changing the type of water you drink, that seems almost too simple to have a significant impact on something like gout.
It might seem that way, right? But the findings from this study were actually quite notable. The researchers observed that participants who regularly drank this high pH alkaline water showed a statistically significant lowering of their serum uric acid levels over the study period.
Okay, lower uric acid, that's key.
But it wasn't just about the uric acid numbers. They also measured inflammatory markers. And they found reductions in markers like IL-1, which is a key signaling molecule involved in that inflammatory response triggered by uric acid crystals during a flare.
So it potentially impacts both the uric acid levels and the reaction, the inflammation itself.
Exactly. And maybe the most practical outcome reported by the participants themselves
What did they say?
was a 30% reduction in the frequency of gout flares over the 6-month study duration.
30% fewer flares just by changing the water you drink. That's substantial. That's a tangible benefit from a relatively accessible dietary modification.
It really is.
For someone experiencing frequent flares that disrupt their life, impact their mobility, that level of reduction could represent a significant improvement in their daily life, their overall well-being.
It offers a potential actionable tip supported by recent research. Now, obviously, it's not a cure. It's not a replacement for prescribed medication.
Right.
But it suggests that something as fundamental as hydration, and maybe the specific properties of the water, could play a supportive role, both in lowering uric acid and potentially dampening inflammation, thereby directly reducing flare frequency and maybe severity.
Swap your regular H2O for the fancy stuff your joints might just throw a thank you party.
Possibly. It's a simple idea with potentially meaningful impact. It makes you look at your water glass a little differently.
It really does. Okay, moving on. This next piece of research presents a finding that might seem, well, paradoxical at first glance. Studies looking at intermittent fasting.
Yeah, this is a really interesting area of research, and it definitely requires careful interpretation. One study, for instance, looked at alternate day fasting patterns in mice.
And found what appeared to be a paradoxical result for gout. Despite observing transient spikes in uric acid levels during the fasting periods.
Spikes are usually bad, right?
Usually, yes. But here's the paradox.
Yeah.
The mice actually experienced 35% fewer gout flares overall.
Okay, wait, hold on. Fasting sometimes makes uric acid levels go up temporarily, but the mice had fewer flares. That completely seems to contradict the basic understanding that high uric acid leads to flares. How does that work?
It does seem counterintuitive initially, but the proposed mechanism, based on this and other related research, suggests that the powerful anti-inflammatory effects of fasting patterns might potentially offset the risks associated with those temporary rises in uric acid.
Right.
Fasting can trigger a cascade of changes in the body, including activating certain pathways that reduce systemic inflammation.
So the body's overall inflammatory state might be just as, or perhaps even more critical than a temporary blip in uric acid levels in determining whether a flare actually happens. This is precisely the important question this research raises. It really highlights the complex interplay between uric acid concentrations and the body's underlying inflammatory state in determining flare risk. And human trials exploring fasting patterns have also shown similar potential anti-inflammatory effects, lending some support to this concept.
Okay, this research is intriguing.
Yeah.
Especially for understanding gout beyond just, the uric acid number itself.
Yeah.
But you mentioned needing careful attention here. What's the critical caution listeners absolutely need to be aware of?
This is absolutely critical, cannot be overstated. While the research into fasting's anti-inflammatory effects in gout is scientifically interesting, if anyone were to consider exploring any form of fasting, particularly during a flare, or if they're not accustomed to it, they must prioritize hydration above all else. Fasting without ensuring adequate fluid intake is not just counterproductive, it is, frankly, a recipe for significantly increasing your risk of a flare. Stay hydrated. Fasting without fluids equals dehydration equals flare city.
Flare city. Got it.
Yeah.
Why is dehydration such a major trigger for gout? What's the mechanism there?
Dehydration is just a well-known, potent trigger. When you become dehydrated, the concentration of uric acid in your blood increases simply because there's less fluid volume.
Right, simple concentration.
But more importantly, dehydration makes it significantly harder for your kidneys to efficiently excrete uric acid. So this combination leads to higher serum uric acid levels and creates an environment where uric acid crystals are much more likely to form or precipitate out of the blood and deposit in the joints.
Ah, precipitation again.
Exactly. Directly leading to that painful inflammatory flare. So any potential anti-inflammatory benefits of fasting could be completely wiped out, even made dangerous, if it's coupled with dehydration.
Okay, so the key takeaway from the fasting research is scientifically interesting, highlights the role of inflammation, shows the complexity, but attempting it requires extreme caution, meticulous hydration, and crucially should only be explored under the strict guidance of a healthcare professional.
Absolutely. Someone who understands your specific health needs, your gout management plan. Hydration remains the non-negotiable foundation.
Non-negotiable. Got it.
It's an area of ongoing research, offers a nuanced perspective, but the practical application is complex. Needs professional oversight.
All right, final piece of news in this section, and this one brings us back to our friend vitamin C. But in combination with a very common gout medication, there was a study looking at vitamin C used alongside allopurinol.
Yeah, this was a 2023 study out of Pakistan. It specifically investigated the effect of adding vitamin C supplementation to standard allopurinol therapy. They divided participants into two groups. One got 500 milligrams of vitamin C daily, in addition to their prescribed allopurinol, and the other group just got the allopurinol alone.
And what did this comparison reveal? What was the difference?
The results were quite remarkable, actually. They really highlight a powerful potential synergy. The group that received the combination therapy vitamin C plus allopurinol achieved an average reduction in their serum uric acid levels of 25.4% over the study period.
25.4%.
Okay.
And the allopurinol-only group?
The group receiving allopurinol alone saw an average reduction of 9.5%.
Wow. Let me get this straight. Adding just 500 milligrams of vitamin C daily to their allopurinol resulted in more than double the uric acid reduction compared to taking allopurinol by itself.
That's right. More than double. 25.4% versus 9.5%.
That is a genuinely significant difference. Speaks volumes about the potential interaction between the two.
It is a very substantial difference from a relatively simple addition. Now, the researchers hypothesized that vitamin C contributes to this enhanced effect through multiple mechanisms.
How so?
They believe it helps by inhibiting xanthine oxidase.
Okay, the enzyme that makes uric acid.
Exactly, which is one of the key enzymes responsible for producing uric acid in the body. And notably, this is the same enzyme targeted by allopurinol.
Okay, so it's working on the production side, just like the medication, helping it out.
Yes, potentially augmenting that pathway. And they also propose that vitamin C improves renal excretion of uric acid.
The kidney connection again.
Right. It helps the kidneys become more efficient at filtering uric acid out of the blood and sending it out of the body in the urine. So you could have an effect on both reducing production and increasing excretion.
Which leads to that much bigger drop.
Precisely. That multi-pronged attack on uric acid levels, reducing production and increasing excretion, likely explains that impressive result.
It's like vitamin C is acting as a co-pilot, significantly boosting the effectiveness of the main medication. It really makes that fun take land. Think of vitamin C as allopurinol's sidekick the Robin to your Batman.
It's a great way to visualize the potential for a simple, low-risk supplement at the right dose, as we'll discuss, to significantly enhance the effectiveness of established treatment.
But again, underscores the importance of talking to your doctor.
Absolutely. Always discuss this kind of research and potential supplementation with your healthcare provider before making any changes. Medical guidance is paramount.
Okay, absolutely. But that study leads us perfectly into our deep dive for the week. We've seen hints of vitamin C's power in the recipe, strong evidence of its synergy with allopurinol in that study. Now it's time to really unpack vitamin C's double life, how it's doing so much more than just being a general antioxidant in the context of gout.
Right. Vitamin C, chemically known as ascorbic acid, is really proving to be a remarkable urate-lowering multitasker. Its benefits in gout management extend well beyond its general antioxidant properties. It involves specific mechanisms that directly impact uric acid metabolism and inflammation.
Okay, let's break down these specific mechanisms based on the research. First, you mentioned a renal boost. What exactly does that mean vitamin C is doing in the kidneys?
This is one of its primary modes of action for lowering uric acid. Vitamin C enhances the kidney's ability to excrete uric acid from the bloodstream.
Okay.
It does this by interacting with specific protein transporters in the kidney tubules, particularly one called URAT1. That stands for urate transporter 1.
URAT1. Got it.
Think of URAT1 as like a tiny pump or maybe a gate on the kidney cells that's designed to pull uric acid back out of the filtered fluid and return it to the bloodstream. Its job is to prevent too much uric acid from being lost in the urine.
Okay, so it reabsorbs it.
Exactly. And vitamin C is shown to inhibit or partially block the activity of these URAT1 transporters.
So by blocking URAT1, vitamin C makes it harder for the kidneys to reabsorb the uric acid.
Precisely. By inhibiting URAT1, less uric acid gets reabsorbed. That means more of it stays in the kidney filtrate, which is destined to become urine. So the net effect is more acid. Uric acid is effectively cleared from the body through urination, leading to a lower concentration in the blood over time. It helps your body get rid of the uric acid that's already there.
That's a direct impact on excretion.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And then you said it also acts as an enzyme blocker, similar to allopurinol.
Correct. Another key mechanism is its ability to partially inhibit the enzyme xanthine oxidase.
The production enzyme again.
Yes. This is the enzyme in your body that catalyzes two steps in the metabolic pathway, converting purines, whether from your diet or produced by your body, into uric acid. Xanthine oxidase is essentially the rate-limiting step in uric acid production.
Okay.
By slowing down the activity of xanthine oxidase, vitamin C can help reduce the overall amount of uric acid being synthesized in the body in the first place.
Wow. So it's potentially hitting the problem from two different sides. Reducing how much uric acid is made, A&D helping the kidneys get rid of what's already there.
That's the power of its multitasker capability. It addresses both production and excretion pathways, which is why its combination with a drug like allopurinol, which primarily focuses on that xanthine oxidase inhibition, can be so effective. They complement each other.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And you also mentioned a third crucial role. It's an inflammation quencher.
Yeah.
How does vitamin C help fight the inflammation itself? Because that's the source of so much pain during a flare.
Right. This mechanism directly addresses the acute pain and swelling of a flare. When those uric acid crystals precipitate in a joint, they're seen by the body's immune system as a threat, like a foreign invader.
Okay.
These crystals directly activate a critical protein complex within immune cells called the NLRP3 inflammasome.
NLRP3 inflammasome.
Okay, bit of a mouthful.
It is. But once it's activated, the NLRP3 inflammasome triggers this powerful inflammatory cascade. It releases potent pro-inflammatory signaling molecules like interleukin-1 beta, IL-1.
Which we heard about with the alkaline water study.
Exactly. These molecules are what cause the intense pain, the redness, the swelling, the heat that's so characteristic of a gout attack.
So the crystals basically poke this inflammasome and it just unleashes the inflammation.
That's a simplified but pretty accurate way to think about it, yeah.
Mm.
And vitamin C, in addition to its other roles, is a well-known antioxidant. One way it helps quench inflammation is by neutralizing reactive oxygen species or free radicals.
Right. These are unstable molecules that can actually trigger the activation of that very same NLRP3 inflammasome. So by reducing this trigger, vitamin C can potentially help dampen the initial spark that sets off the full-blown inflammatory response during a flare.
That is incredible. So it's not just helping to lower the uric acid that causes the crystals to form over time.
Right.
It's also potentially helping to reduce the severity of the body's painful reaction to those crystals once they're actually there in the joint. It's working on multiple fronts.
It truly is. It impacts the upstream cause of the uric acid levels via production and excretion and the downstream effect, which is that inflammatory response. This is why understanding its mechanisms is so valuable.
This is such critical information for anyone managing gout.
Okay.
Now let's talk practical application, specifically dosage matter. What did the research tell us about how much vitamin C is actually needed to see these gout-specific benefits?
Yeah, this is a key takeaway for anyone considering supplementation. Studies, including that one looking at the synergy with allopurinol, indicate that a daily dose of around 500 milligrams of vitamin C appears to be effective for achieving these urate-lowering and anti-inflammatory benefits.
Here, 500 milligrams. That seems to be the number.
It seems to be the optimal range, kind of the sweet spot, for these specific effects based on current research. Now, while vitamin C is generally very safe, taking significantly higher doses, particularly consistently above, say, 1,000 milligrams per day, may not provide additional gout-specific benefits and actually increases the risk of gastrointestinal side effects in some individuals, things like stomach upset or diarrhea.
Okay, so based on the current research, 500 milligrams a day seems to be the sweet spot for targeting gout.
That's what the study suggests for optimizing these particular benefits without going into unnecessary higher doses. And this brings us, of course, to the absolutely essential disclaimer, which the research consistently highlights.
Let me guess. Talk to your doctor.
Always consult your doc before supplementing, yes.
We cannot emphasize that enough, can we? While the science on vitamin C's potential benefits is promising, it's empowering. Adding any supplement, including vitamin C, should always be discussed with your healthcare provider.
Especially true if you're already taking prescription medications for gout or any other health conditions.
Right, because your doctor can advise on potential interactions, make sure it's an appropriate part of your overall management plan, tailored to you, your individual needs, your health history.
Absolutely. Think of this knowledge we're sharing as a tool, something to bring to that conversation with your medical team.
Excellent point. All right, let's transition now. From the deeper scientific dives and longer-term strategies to something more immediate, more practical. When a flare strikes and you're dealing with that acute pain, that limited mobility, you need options now.
Right. This is our treatment toolbox, featuring science-backed hacks for managing those really difficult flare episodes.
Okay.
Now, these are intended as supportive measures, drawing on scientific rationale to help you navigate the acute phase of flare. But it's vital to remember.
What's the caveat?
These are science-backed hacks meant to complement your prescribed medications from your doctor. They should never replace them.
Okay, complement, not replace. Got it. Your prescribed anti-inflammatory or pain relief medication for flares is your primary tool. These are potential additions to discuss.
Exactly. Your doctor's plan comes first. So what's in the toolbox for when a flare hits?
Yeah, what have we got?
First up, tart cherry concentrate. A common recommendation based on research is around 1 tablespoon mixed in water.
Okay, tart cherry. We mentioned it with the water earlier.
Right. Studies have shown that tart cherry concentrate contains compounds that can help reduce uric acid levels and also markers of inflammation. And importantly, some of these effects can be observed relatively quickly, potentially within hours.
Oh, within hours. That's fast.
It can be. So when you're in the middle of a flare, any potential for even temporary relief while you're waiting for your prescribed medication to fully kick in is really valuable.
Okay, so it's something you might reach for early in a flare, hoping for that relatively quick potential impact on both uric acid and inflammation.
Precisely. It's a natural compound. There's a body of research supporting its use for both chronic uric acid management and those acute inflammatory episodes.
Okay, good one. What's the next hack in the toolbox?
An alkaline water soak.
Alkaline water again, but soaking.
Yes. This involves soaking the affected joint, the foot, the knee, wherever the flare is, in warm water that has a higher pH, so alkaline water. Sometimes combined with Epsom salts.
Okay, so this is a different application than drinking it daily for long-term effects.
Yeah.
This is purely a localized treatment for the flare itself.
Exactly. While daily alkaline water intake might have those systemic effects over time we discussed, the soak is purely a localized approach. The warmth itself can be very soothing for a painful joint.
Sure.
Now, the rigorous scientific evidence specifically for an alkaline water soak in gout flares might be less extensive than for, say, tart cherry. But it's a commonly reported method. People find it provides some potential immediate, localized comfort right at the joint that's inflamed and restricting mobility. And adding Epsom salts is a traditional remedy for muscle and joint soreness, possibly adding to that soothing effect.
So it's about bringing direct, soothing support right to the specific point of pain and swelling, offering that immediate physical comfort.
Yes, exactly. Right where the flare is most intense.
Makes sense. And finally, bringing it back to our vitamin C deep dive, you suggest a vitamin C smoothie.
Right. This is just a really practical way to get a significant dose of vitamin C, especially during a flare when maybe you don't feel like eating a full meal, but you definitely need nutrients and hydration.
Good point. What goes in it?
The suggestion is to blend ingredients like kale, oranges, and maybe some Greek yogurt. The oranges obviously provide that core vitamin C boost.
Aiming for that 300 milligram range, maybe.
Aiming for that beneficial range, yeah, like we saw in the salad, which, as we discussed, can help with both uric acid excretion and potentially reducing inflammation.
Okay. Kale adds greens, nutrients. Oranges give the vitamin C. And the Greek yogurt, what's the thinking there?
Greek yogurt provides protein, which is good, and importantly, beneficial probiotics.
Gut health.
Exactly. Supports gut health, which is an increasingly recognized factor in overall health and inflammatory regulation. Now, the direct link to acute gout flares might be less established than vitamin C's effects, but it makes the smoothie a really nutrient-dense, easy-to-consume option. It includes that potentially beneficial vitamin C dose while also supporting general well-being when you're just not feeling great.
So these are practical, accessible things someone could potentially integrate into their flare management routine, always alongside their doctor-prescribed medication, of course.
Always.
Tart cherry concentrate, an alkaline water soak for localized relief, and a nutrient-packed vitamin C smoothie. Simple ideas, but grounded in some scientific rationale, offering potential complementary support.
Exactly. They offer empowering options that might provide some additional relief during a difficult time, adding to your overall management strategy. Discuss them with your doctor.
All right, let's bring a little lightness and perspective as we start to wrap things up here. Time for some fun facts and maybe a bit of humor.
Sounds good.
Because even with a serious condition like gout that causes real pain, real mobility issues, maintaining perspective, finding moments of levity, it's important for overall well-being, isn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, here's a fun fact that strongly reinforces the power of diet we discussed earlier, particularly relevant after talking about that strategic salmon salad.
Okay, lay it on me.
Gout affects a significant portion of the population in countries like the United States, impacts about 4% of American adults.
4%, that's quite a few people.
It is. But strikingly, studies have shown it affects only about 0.5%, 0.5% of individuals who adhere to a traditional Mediterranean diet.
Whoa. 4% down to 0.5%. That is a massive difference in prevalence. What does that statistic fundamentally tell us?
It provides pretty compelling evidence, I think, that diet and lifestyle patterns play a profoundly significant role. Not just in managing existing gout, but potentially in reducing the risk of developing it in the first place. The traditional Mediterranean diet, it's not restrictive or bland, right? It's characterized by high consumption of vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, olive oil as the primary fat.
Lots of good stuff.
Moderate consumption of fish and poultry, lower consumption of red meat, sweets, processed foods. This statistic really underscores that the disease of King's Lynch wasn't just about historical excess. Specific dietary components have a very real impact on uric acid levels and inflammation today.
So the simple, powerful takeaway is clear. Olives over organ meats, folks.
Pretty much. It highlights that a delicious, varied, plant-forward eating pattern can be incredibly protective and supportive for gout management.
It really brings home that point diet isn't just an adjunct, it's foundational. And adopting a pattern like the Mediterranean diet offers robust protection, according to the data.
The evidence is quite striking.
Okay, and finally, for the humor corner, let's try to find a bit of laughter in the midst of all the science. Are you ready for a gout joke?
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm braced. Lay it on me.
Why did the uric acid crystal get kicked out of the joint?
Why did the uric acid crystal get kicked out of the joint? Given her topic, I suspect it involves some kind of chemical process. Maybe it was unstable.
Close. It was too precipitated.
Okay, that's perfect. Precipitated. It plays directly on the term precipitation, which is exactly the process by which uric acid comes out of solution and forms those sharp crystals in the joint when levels get too high.
Right. Chemically accurate.
And relatable for anyone who's unfortunately experienced a flare. That's a good one.
A little science-based humor to finish on a lighter note.
Adds a bit of cheer to a challenging topic. Definitely needed sometimes.
Well, goodness. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the history of gout, reclaimed royalty through the power of science and knowledge. We've showcased a delicious, strategic recipe proving gout-friendly eating can be vibrant. We've reviewed groundbreaking news on potential new treatments like SAP-001 for those tough refractory cases.
And those surprising findings about accessible interventions like alkaline water.
Right. We grappled with the complex, nuanced research on intermittent fasting and the vital importance of hydration.
Don't forget Flare City.
Never forget Flare City. We took a deep dive into the multifaceted ways vitamin C acts as that urate-lowering multitasker, impacting both uric acid and inflammation.
And we shared practical, science-backed hacks for managing flares when they actually occur.
So the key takeaways are really numerous, aren't they? The demonstrated potential of vitamin C aiding excretion, reducing production, quenching inflammation, especially that synergy with allopurinol.
The hope offered by novel treatments on the horizon, the surprising impact simple changes like water type might have.
Understanding inflammation's role alongside uric acid, the critical, non-negotiable need for hydration.
The value of natural compounds like tart cherry and turmeric. And the fundamental fact that effective gout management goes hand in hand with delicious, strategic dietary choices, like our Citrus Salmon Superfood Salad.
And the core message woven throughout all of this is really one of empowerment through information. All this knowledge is here for you, whether you're living with gout or you're supporting someone who is.
Yeah.
We really encourage you to take these insights, maybe discussing the research on vitamin C supplementation, that 500 milligram dose, or exploring alkaline water intake, trying tart cherry concentrate, incorporating more recipes like the salmon salad.
And bring them to your conversations with your own healthcare provider or a registered dietitian.
That's the key. Professional medical advice tailored to your specific situation, your health history, your other medications, your unique needs. It's always the most crucial step. Use this deep dive as an informed starting point for those productive discussions.
Make decisions that are right for you.
Exactly. We know living with gout, dealing with the pain, the unpredictability, the impact on your mobility. It is profoundly difficult. And we also recognize the challenges faced by caregivers.
Absolutely.
We truly hope this deep dive has offered some valuable insights, maybe revealed some new possibilities you weren't aware of, and provided some actionable steps you feel empowered to explore.
Acknowledging the difficulty is important, but focusing on the rapid progress in research, the growing understanding of the condition, and the practical strategies available, that's where we find genuine hope and tools for living better.
So let's leave you with this thought to consider as you move forward. We saw the dramatic statistic about the Mediterranean diet's impact.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
How much of effective gout management, for you specifically, is about medication? How much is about diet and lifestyle? How much is about understanding and leveraging these science-backed supplements and flare hacks?
How can you find the right personalized balance among all these different approaches? Meds, diet, hydration, supplements, future treatments, flare support that works best for your body, your lifestyle, your well-being.
It's rarely just one thing, is it?
No, it's often a dynamic combination. And actively exploring that balance, that's a powerful part of the journey.
Finding that right mix of tools tailored to your unique experience, that really is key to navigating this condition effectively.
So if you found this deep dive helpful, empowering, please make sure you subscribe or follow the deep dive wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss future explorations where we continue to tackle how to live well with gout and many other complex health topics, trying to cut through the information overload to bring you what really matters.
We appreciate you spending this time with us. Join us next week as we continue to unpack fascinating subjects and uncover those valuable nuggets of knowledge together.
Managing gout is a journey, absolutely. But with knowledge and good food, each step can be a little lighter.